Professional basketball hits different when you feel the speed, pressure, and intensity right in front of you. And Ottawa has that with the Ottawa BlackJacks. The energy in the arena, the competition on the court, the celebration in the crowd, it's exactly the spark this city has been needing. On this episode of Ottawa and the Future of Sports, we speak with Ameer AlHussaini, BlackJacks account executive, former college player, and youth basketball coach. Ameer walks us through his journey in the sport, why he stayed connected after playing, and how he helps young athletes grow on and off the court. We talk about the youth basketball scene in Ottawa, the potential he sees, and why the pro atmosphere matters. Ameer describes the game day experience, fast, intense, loud, and full of athletes chasing excellence. He breaks down how the team connects with local programs and how basketball brings Ottawa's passionate, proud, and diverse communities together. The BlackJacks name reflects that energy, built around an explosive animal able to leap 10 feet. I said 10 feet, matching the team's mission: world-class entertainment, Canadian talent, and community pride. Let's get into it. This is Ottawa and the Future of Sports, featuring Ameer AlHussaini.
Absolutely, yeah. My name is Ameer AlHussaini. I am an account executive with the Ottawa BlackJacks. I played basketball my entire life. I coach currently basketball at a high level with a high level team. So pretty big in the basketball community, pretty involved for sure.
Very cool. And where are we currently right now?
We are currently at TD Place in my office where all the magic happens with the Ottawa BlackJacks.
Speaking of magic, how this interview, began or not began, or how it all really happened is I got a call one day and I didn't pick up, because usually you don't pick up when people call. It went to my answering machine, and then I'm like, okay, who the hell is this calling, right? And I listened to the message, and I'm like, I'm listening to the voice, I'm listening to what they're saying, and in all honesty, like the reason why I even called you back was I was like, hey, this guy sounds genuine. He sounds like he's passionate about what he's talking about. I'm going to call him back. And I've been to the game. I've been to one game here with the Ottawa BlackJacks. And from there, obviously, I decided to get some tickets for the new season. And, it's a combination of your ability to communicate and to sell, you know what I mean, the game. So in this interview here, I'm going to be asking you all sorts of questions in regards to the BlackJacks. But more importantly, I want to know about your story in basketball. How did you get involved as a player, as a coach, and now here with this professional team on the sales side?
Absolutely. So growing up, grew up in the Boys and Girls Club. And being around that environment, kind of in the environment that I grew up in, it was mainly basketball. We played a lot of different sports, but basketball was definitely my first love. As growing up from an immigrant family, I was known to play soccer growing up, a whole lot of soccer.
That's so many people's stories. It's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I dropped the soccer ball and picked up the basketball when I was in third grade, and then the rest is history. So, I fell in love with the game, and as I grew older, in the environment that we grew up in, it's so easy to get tempted by, negative things, bad things. And basketball was always an escape for me. It was always a way for me to stay in check. That way I'm not, getting influenced by the wrong people or by the wrong things. And I always like to say, like, if it wasn't for basketball, I really don't know who I would be as a person. So basketball definitely saved my life in a lot of different ways. And that's why I fell in love with the game. And basketball is my life. So that's, thank God for the blessings, and that's why I'm here today.
When you decided to go from soccer or football, that is, to basketball, that transition, what was the immediate reaction from your family and friends and so on? Because it is a big leap, because the whole world loves football, of course, what we call here soccer. And as you mentioned, immigrant family, I think just about everyone I know, you know what I mean, who's immigrant. I'm an immigrant as well. I've immigrated here. First love was obviously football, and then of course I caught the bug for hockey a bit, and then basketball. So when you made that transition, what was the reaction?
It was pretty positive. I don't think I had any negative reactions. For my parents specifically, it was more them understanding the game of basketball because we come from the Middle East, and in the Middle East, basketball is not that big.
Certain parts of the Middle East has a thriving. We're about to the Middle East.
From Iraq. So yeah, so in Iraq specifically, it's a little bit it's not the biggest, but it's definitely growing. It's definitely growing a lot in the Middle East. So for them, it was just understanding the game, understanding the rules of the game and how it works and the culture. So it wasn't necessarily negative, but for me, it was just about getting better and improving and showing them that I genuinely love this game and I genuinely want to pursue this game and play at the highest level. So.
Which era were you from in terms of when did you start watching basketball? Was it in the mid 2000s? Was it in, I wouldn't say the 90s because you seem like a young person. Situate that for us.
Yeah. So my debut to NBA basketball was 2012, Jeremy Lin and Carmelo Anthony New York Knicks. So ever since then, I've been a Knicks fan, diehard. I love Carmelo Anthony's my favorite basketball player of all time. So that was my introduction to watching basketball. And then obviously the Miami Heat, LeBron. And from there, that was kind of my introductory to basketball, and I fell in love with watching it. Till this day, I watch all basketball every night, love it. So that was kind of my era, was the Miami Heat, LeBron, the New York Knicks, Carmelo Anthony, the Boston Celtics. KG was a little bit before my time, but definitely watched a little bit then and there as well. And then Kobe Bryant, rest in peace as well, was obviously a big influence in my life for sure.
Take us through your years as a competitive basketball player because you've played, right? So you can paint that picture for us.
Sure. So growing up, obviously, my older brother never really had the privilege of playing at the competitive level in basketball, and he was also a big basketball head. So he's also another reason as to why I fell in love with the game. So they saw him struggle not being able to play at the competitive level. So. Being the younger brother, being a little more spoiled, I was able to, I had the privilege of playing, and I used to play with the Ottawa Shooting Stars. It was great. It was fun. It's nice to have that attention, and it really does keep you in check as well in terms of commitment. It taught me a lot of discipline. It's not every day that you want to go to school practice and then competitive practice after, like you're tired, and then having to wake up at 6 a.m, go to class. So learning that discipline at a younger age has really pushed me to who I am today, and it showed me that I could go through a lot of hardship. And I could push my body and my mental to different levels. And that's something that I strive for every single day, and I strive to be better every single day. And that's kind of how I stayed with basketball for all those years. So my competitive years were pretty fun. And then after competitive basketball, I really tried hard to go play at the college level. And I was blessed to be able to do that. I was able to play at Centennial College for a little bit back in 2022, I want to say, back in 2022. Played there for a little bit. Great experience, great organization, great team. Lots of fun. Being able to live alone there was also a pretty cool experience. And then just last year, I was able to go overseas back home in Iraq and experience playing at the professional level as well.
Oh, so you played professionally in Iraq?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It was a pretty cool experience. It wasn't too long of a stint. It was just a kind of bit of a taste of it, but I got to fulfill my childhood dream in saying that I got to play professional basketball, which is pretty cool.
In your home country, like a country of origin, which is incredible. Tell us, what position do you play? What in particular?
Yeah, so I like to call myself a combo guard. If you look at the Klay Thompsons of the world, the JJ Redicks of the world, more of a 3-and-D guy. If I need to play the one, love to play the one. Don't mind. I can facilitate. But I definitely say my strong suit's definitely shooting the basketball and creating my own shot and scoring. So that's definitely my skill set for sure.
Very interesting. So you played in Toronto. Yes, and then you played internationally. What would you say was the biggest lesson learned from your basketball journey as a player? If there was one particular lesson that you reflect on till this day, what would it be?
Staying humble. In high school, you kind of grow to, I mean, at least for my story, like I was that guy in high school. Like I was the guy that would touch the ball every time down the court, highest scorer. Everybody knew me for that. Ameer's that basketball player. Amir, that's the basketball player that carried our team or whatever the case is. So
it was part of your identity.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So being that, going from being that guy and then kind of going into college and obviously it was the biggest blessing. But what I realized was everybody on that college team was me before. So everybody was that guy in high school, and that's why we're here today. So having to kind of kill your ego and understand that, like, you're not always going to be that number one guy. You could always strive to be that, but there comes a time, there comes a level in basketball where the skill tree isn't so different. Like, you're not going to be that one guy, and the last guy on the bench isn't going to be terrible. You're all going to be equally, sort of, to some degree, is equally as good as one another. So being able to understand, like, okay, I'm not that guy anymore. So how can I succeed in my role? And what is that role that my team needs me to do in order for us to be successful? It was a bit of a slap in the face for me, because, I went into it, I'm like, okay, like, I'm that guy, whatever. And then you kind of come in, and then all of a sudden, guys are knocking down threes in your face, and guys are, dunking on you, and then guys are throwing lobs over your head, and you're like, oh my God, this is a whole different world. So that's I think, being able to understand where you stand, and yes, be great at what you do and strive to be great, but understand that people are all, like, there's other players in the world that there's always going to be somebody that's better than you. There's always going to be somebody that's working just as hard, if not harder, than you. So how can you navigate that? How do you navigate that in your life? So
thank you very much for that answer. That's fascinating. That you mentioned humility.
Yeah.
And because it sounds to me, as I'm listening to this, you're speaking about being a high performer, and then being surrounded essentially by other high performers.
That's exactly it.
And having to deal with that. Now, my follow-up question is: you're obviously involved at the local coaching, at the local level here as a coach, right? You coach youth and youth basketball, and this is there's a lot there to unpack, because I think Ottawa's scene, as far as basketball, over the last 30 years, in my opinion, has really grown and matured in many ways. And before we get into what you see as ways to potentially improve that scene, tell us about your role as a local coach and your involvement with youth, as far as their skill development and so on, and what you bring to them every day.
Of course. The main thing I bring is discipline. And some people nowadays take that as in a negative connotation. But I think,
Why is that?
it's tough, man. I think the newer generation's a bit softer, if I'm being honest with you. I find that they're too comfortable, at least in this city. They kind of have that mentality of, okay, like, at the end of the day, even if I don't make it in basketball, I could just have, like, I'll just work my regular job, or I would just go, like, my dad can take care of me, whatever the case is. For us, I also had that. That sense of security, to where, like, okay, like, worst case scenario, if I don't play at the highest level, I'm still going to be fine. But in the back of my head, I already know, like, if I really want to play basketball, there's people out there that literally, if they don't succeed in basketball, like, there's nothing left for them. So how can I adopt that mentality while still being understanding that I can be comfortable? That is an opportunity. So there's just that for the lack of a better word, that dog mentality, when it's a dog eat dog world out there. And if you can't adopt that mentality, it's going to be very tough for you to succeed in basketball, because there's a lot of people out there that if it's not basketball, it's nothing for them. So how can you adopt their mentality and battle with them on a mental level? So
do you feel the need, sorry to interrupt, do you feel the need to approach them adjacently with that perspective in order to connect with them? Is that very important?
So I think nowadays I've really had to adjust my coaching style, because I don't want to come off as that coach that's the coach that people don't like, or the coach that people aren't happy with, or because then you just kind of ruin your reputation. At the same time, I always tell my players there's a balance. There's a time and place for us to have fun and joke and all that kind of stuff, and there's also a time for us to work and work hard. I'm a super fun guy. Love to have fun. Love to joke. Love to laugh. I'm a very, very jolly guy. But when it comes to time to work, and when it comes time for us to lock in, we really need to lock in and work and get the job done. And then once the job is done, we can go have fun. We can go have a team bonding event, go laugh, crack jokes, whatever the case is. So I think that there's a balance. I'm still, in my early years of coaching, still trying to find that balance of finding ways to discipline them in a way where it's a positive effect on their life, rather than them going home and being upset. Because I've had coaches like that. I've had coaches discipline me in a negative way, where I'd go home and I'd almost hate basketball. I'd almost not, yeah, I wouldn't want to look at a basketball. I wouldn't want to touch a basketball. I wouldn't want to watch basketball. So, so yeah, like I'm still trying to navigate that. But I do think that finding that balance, it's possible. And once I find that balance, it's gonna be a cakewalk. So.
Fascinating. Tell us how old these athletes are, and then I have a follow-up.
Absolutely. So I'm currently coaching the U16 Rising Stars team. So we got a bunch of grade 10s that I'm working with right now. I've worked at all different levels and all different ages, but currently I'm coaching with the U16 Rising Stars.
Is that a tough age to coach?
I personally like it a bit more than the younger groups because as a younger man myself, I tend to relate to them a little bit more, and I find that kind of creates a natural connection. With that being said, it's not the easiest because of their egos. So that's the age where they're kind of they have that ego, and I was there. I was once them, so I totally get it. Like, you're that basketball player, and you're in high school, and everybody likes you, and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm just worried that they're gonna have the same reaction that I had in terms of they go play at the next level and then they just get a slap in the face like, oh my God, I'm not that guy anymore. So for me, it's killing their ego. And I mean, that goes even deeper than basketball. Killing your ego is a whole different topic. But killing your egos is probably the most important part of my life that I've had to do. And I want to try to teach them that. And everybody kills their ego in a different way, in my opinion. But that's the only challenge I'd say that I'd have coaching with the U16s this year.
I struggle to ask this question because I can appreciate where people are in their journey. I'm talking about these kids, because they're kids, they're 15 and so on. Do they know how fortunate they are to be going through this experience? In the sense that when I hear that at that age, having a mentor, a coach, instill discipline, try to find the fine balance between, putting a vision on the table in terms of goals, curriculum, and trying to attain, lock in and develop those skills, but also to kind of understand that, hey, this is a long, lengthy process. It's not going to be easy, but the ultimate result is you will gain some grit, but potentially some discipline, maybe, hopefully. But do you think at that age, can they grasp the real value of the experience? Because it goes beyond just the game of basketball, right? Do you think at that age it's fair to say they can understand it? Maybe in hindsight they will. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
I think they definitely can. I think it's possible. I still think that there's a lot of youth that struggle to understand the privilege that they're in. Not all parents can afford for them to play and go to these tournaments, and basketball's become more expensive now as well.
Can you give us an idea of how expensive it is now, but then continue with what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I used to play the full season, everything was taken care of for about like $700 to $800, and then now it's so oversaturated. So it's more competition now. So everybody has a tournament, and everybody has a different coach, and everybody has a different team. So people are they're really competing against each other. So now every tournament, just the tournament is costing about $700 to $800. So my whole season used to be per tournament. Obviously, depending on the tournament, there's different price ranges. But yeah, some tournaments are charging $800, $700, if not more. I find that, I mean, I get it. It's a business, but at the end of the day, it's for my perspective of it is I'm investing in these children and in the athletes, in the youth, for them to improve. So the more basketball becomes a business, the less enjoyable it becomes. I've learned that over the years of playing as well. So.
Wow. How do you know you're doing a good job as a coach in terms of instilling, obviously, the skills development as a player, this, that, and the other, but beyond that, how do you know you're doing a good job with these students? Have you had an experience recently that tells you, hey, we're on a good track, or not, the opposite of that?
No, well, that's a great question. For me, it's when I get feedback years down the line. So my first coaching stint, I coached a house league team, U14, also with the Shooting Stars. And then there was one of the players, till this day, comes to me and says, "Hey coach, like how are you?" Like and the word is very positive. I have one of my players on my current team that tells me, "Hey, remember that kid? Like he says that you were his favorite coach." So having that impact on these kids, because I've had coaches that have had that impact on me that I will never forget years down the line. No matter how old I become or where I become, I'll always remember that coach and that coach. And it's same. You could say the same thing about teachers in school. Some teachers have such a positive impact on a lot of kids, and for me, it's just having that positive impact. As soon as I know that, you know, I've left that positive mark on you, and to make sure that you still understand the philosophies that I instilled within the environment and the culture that we had within that team. That's how I know, like, okay, like I'm doing okay. I'm doing a good job. So I'm always open to different feedback and criticism as well. I'm an open book. I'm a sponge. I love to learn. I'm very coachable. But in that aspect, to answer your question, it's years down the line whenever they come back and still have positive things to say. That's, for me, that's the biggest win.
It's incredible how significant of an impact a coach and teacher can have on youth, especially U14, U16, and those are such, you know, sensitive years in many ways for these individuals, for these young folks. But as athletes in all sports, I think for boys and girls, you know, that U14, U16, no, not trying to dramatize it, but it can be a real turning point in their development. I know I'm generalizing when I say all sports, but I think it's fair enough to say that's where people decide, hey, is this something I want to pursue? When you open up about your journey in the sport, do they fully do they understand when you talk about the depth of talent, in terms of, like, you know, obviously you have a few players who are very, very talented, but then do you remind them, hey, there are higher levels than this with hungrier players who are even more cutthroat? Let's just put it out there, because, you know, you're getting into a you know, a small pool with sharks. You know, everyone's going after it. So when you open up about that, how receptive are they?
From my experience, they haven't been too receptive. For them, because their egos their heads are so large, and they think that they're at the top of the world, and they haven't really seen that side that you're talking about, where it's cutthroat and it's you know, it's sharks in the water. They only, from my experience, they only understand it when they go through it. So they have to go to a game where they play against these players, these athletes that know nothing more than basketball, and get absolutely annihilated by them, for them to come back and be like, okay, this is serious. Like, there's actually a different level, and if I want to play at the next level, I need to get to that level and exceed that level. So I mean, everybody's different. People like to learn the hard way, and from my experience, maybe it's just coincidence or maybe it isn't, but from the players I've coached, it's always been learning the hard way. And you have to go through that experience, and even playing as well. Like, you could tell them, you could give them this idea of all these great players, and this player is this and this player is that, and he's ranked here and he's ranked that. But until they see it and until they experience it, it's going to be tough for them to grasp it. Some people, some of the youth can at least grasp the idea, but until they actually see it and experience it, that's when the humility comes back, and that's when their ego slowly starts to die, and they start to understand, like, okay, I need to. There's a different level that I need to reach here. So.
Before we transition into speaking about the BlackJacks, I have one last question in terms of the local Ottawa scene for youth, the basketball in particular. How's it going? What's working and what's not working? And if there was one thing you wanted to you could fix, what would that thing be? Generally, in terms of Ottawa in relation to other regions in North America, in Canada, Ontario, etc. Well, what's the thing that could elevate youth basketball in the city?
For sure. I mean, it being oversaturated is both a positive and a negative. Like, when I played, I remember playing the same 4 or 5 teams all year. So it was just Shooting Stars, GCBA, West Ottawa. They used to be Goulbourne Hornets back in the day, and then ONL, and then that's it. Like, unless we go to Toronto. But now there's all these different teams, and everybody is a coach, and everybody's a trainer, and everybody wants to create their own environment, which is great in hindsight, because it's growing basketball within the city, which is awesome. But at the same time, it also forces it to become more of a business. And growing up and playing at the different levels and seeing all these different things within my basketball journey it's as soon as it starts becoming a business, it starts to become less enjoyable. And that's where I think we need to, I really don't know how, but I'm trying to figure out ways to make this less of a business, especially now, because these kids are still playing competitive basketball. They're still in high school. A lot of the kids haven't even thought about getting an agent and helping them getting to different levels, right? They're not even worried about that. They're not even at that level. So the earlier it's becoming a business, I think that's having a little bit of a negative impact on the team, because all these coaches and all these teams want to make money, and it's becoming such a money-driven game to some degree. I guess some people might disagree, but from what I'm seeing, it's really becoming a business, and that's kind of taking away from the love of the game for these kids, especially, obviously, again, there's parents that are less fortunate, there's families that are less fortunate that can't pay for these things, that may have a kid that genuinely has potential to play at the highest level. So if I could fix something, it would definitely be that aspect of it, that business aspect. How can we invest more into these kids and their athletic abilities without having to charge them an arm and a leg, without having for their parents to go deep into their pockets, or how can we help them get to that level and achieve their dreams without them having to pay an exponential amount of money or whatever it is for them to get there. So that's definitely something I'd fix for sure.
Really interesting that it's gotten that expensive. I was unaware. I know hockey obviously is an example of a sport for youth that is extremely expensive for everyone, quite frankly. Follow up, if you don't mind, in terms of, because the sport is global.
Yes.
And it's growing like bananas everywhere. Outside of North America, it's very, very popular on the amateur side in international basketball. Which country has, do you think, a very unique model when it comes to sports development and skills, overall sports development of the sport of basketball at that U14, U16 age group? I know it's a big question, but generally, from what you know, like which region of the world or country do you think has a kind of a unique opportunity? Is it in Europe? Is it in the Middle East? Is it in Africa? Is it in South America? Whereabouts in the world do you see, basketball really taking a unique sports development angle?
Definitely. I mean, we could start by saying the States. The States, the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, they offer full rides, left, right, and center for those. I mean, if they see potential in you at 12 years old, they'll knock on your door and tell your mom you don't have to pay for a single thing for the rest of your life, as long as this kid continues to play basketball or whatever sport they're playing. That's a huge privilege, and it's a huge thing that they do out there that we don't have here in Canada.
But it's largely like a huge ecosystem that's like, there's a huge financial backbone to it as well.
Of course, absolutely, you're totally right. So I think that in the States they have that, and that's why a lot of athletes in Canada go to the States, because they're looking for that opportunity. Now, from the outside looking in, Europe looks insane. I mean, you look at the Jokic's of the world and the Doncic's of the world. I mean, Luka started playing for Real Madrid when he was like 14, and that's a very high level European basketball club.
The fans are crazy down there, man. If you look at the Serbian fans, the Croatian fans in Southeast, that part of Europe, the fans are bananas. Even in Greece.
Oh, absolutely. It makes the NBA look pathetic, honestly.
Big time. People need to see footage of the fans they just love it. It's like the football, not the hooligans, but that football hype and energy transitioned over. And by football, I don't mean soccer, but you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, absolutely. No. You're totally right. Like, the energy is just different. I don't know the specifics as to what they're doing out there, as to how they're developing these players, but clearly something's working. I mean, you have Luka, who's, it's been 3 weeks into the NBA season. He's already averaging 40, early MVP talks. So, and not to mention all the other players. I mean, if you look at Alperen Şengün and the Enes Kantors of the world, they're from Turkey as well. So, Europe, clearly, European countries and clubs are clearly doing something right in terms of that. So I think that in terms of globally, I think that definitely, based off from what I'm seeing and the analytics and the statistics of the successful basketball players that have played in the NBA and other leagues, have definitely mainly come from either the States or Europe as well. So clearly something good going on there.
And it's fascinating because now it's a global sport, and all these different regions bring their flavor, their style of playing, and it somewhat alters the American style to some extent. Transitioning now, obviously, to the topic of where we are now. We're here, Ottawa BlackJacks, which is very exciting. What does it mean for Ottawa to have a professional basketball team, as someone who's grown up in the city, has played in this city, and now works for this team here? What does it mean to have this team here in Ottawa?
It means community, it means culture, and it means hope. And what I mean by that is, I mean, if you look at the statistics, what is it, 3 or 4%, or even less than 3 or 4% of college basketball players make it to the NBA or make it to play at that level. So if you look at it, that's pretty much nothing. It's almost impossible to make it to the NBA. So from a perspective of a kid that grew up in Ottawa, the NBA looks like it's impossible, which it is. And I personally, as the type of person I am, I don't like to believe anything is impossible. Anything that you put your mind to, you can do. With that being said, now there's an opportunity for you to not have to leave. You could stay home and play for a professional basketball team. And that's huge. We never had that growing up, and that could give you something different to strive for. It doesn't mean that you're a worse basketball player, you're less of a person to play in the CEBL or the NBA. You're still a professional basketball player. And that's more than a lot of people can say they've achieved. So it shows hope, it shows culture. Ottawa has grown so much in the basketball. Basketball has grown so much in Ottawa. Growing up, it was mainly hockey. Football or soccer was huge as well. But basketball was always in the shadows. So I believe that ever since the Raptors won in 2019, it's just changed the world. And so many people, I've personally spoken to so many people like, oh my God, ever since Kawhi Leonard was on the Raptors, I started playing basketball and I started watching it or whatever the case is. And that's allowed it to grow so much exponentially. And the BlackJacks are just a reflection of that, and gives the youth an opportunity to say, okay, listen, like, yes, the opportunity to make the NBA is so slim, but hey, you could make money playing basketball here. You could feed your family playing basketball here at this league at home. You don't even need to go anywhere. You could stay home. You could play a game and go to your mom's house right after. So it's yeah, absolutely. So it definitely we're trying to really bring the community here, and one thing that we're trying to do is really grow the organization here in terms of getting people to know what it is. Unfortunately I still talk to some people about the BlackJacks and they're like, who are the BlackJacks? And that's something that breaks my heart, because we didn't have a professional basketball team growing up. So for them to not know what it is, it's a bit hurtful, because this isn't something that we always had, and it's great that we have it. And I look forward to all the greatness that's going to happen within the office and within the organization.
I've only been to one game, and I brought a friend of mine who's Canadian but is currently living in the U.S. and working there, and I genuinely had a good time. And one thing that I'll mention, I think when we spoke on the phone, I mentioned that the vibe and the energy was something that really that I could appreciate a lot. You had a DJ there. It was a good party atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I mean, for some people, it's everyone has their pick, but I think for me, I was surprised to see that. And I wasn't expecting that, I guess is what I'm saying. But it worked well, and I'm looking forward to attending more games, obviously. Who's the main target demographic in this city as far as who attends these games? Give us, if you can, if you're, age group or a profile of the sort of person that attends a BlackJacks game.
I want to say it's mainly either elderly or youth. We have a lot of basketball teams that do want to, work with us, and they bring their teams and they bring their players with us, which is great. I love that. If it was up to me, I wish that it was mainly the youth, because for them to see and experience this opportunity, it's huge. And being a coach in the minor basketball community, I understand the impact that this team could have, and watching just one game with the BlackJacks can have the type of impact that could have on one single athlete, and they could just watch that one game and say, oh my God, like, I want to be just like that. Like, I want to play on this court one day, instead of having to drive 5 hours to go watch a Raptors game and then understand how almost impossible it is to be on that court. So to answer your question, I guess the demographic at the moment is mainly elderly, middle age. I don't think we have really that's not like that. The age gap isn't too crazy. I think we get a good balance of almost everything. But yeah, like, again, if it was up to me, I'd hope to see this year a lot of youth come through to our games for sure.
Fascinating. In addition to youth, who else would you want to see? If you don't mind me asking, who else would you want to see? And another question, how do you get the non-basketball fan in that? Like, how do you target that audience, that person who has never watched basketball, is not familiar with basketball? How do you get them purchasing tickets?
For sure. So that's more of the experience that we provide them. If somebody's never watched basketball, is never into basketball, it's like you said, we try to create that party environment. We try to create that party kind of vibe in there, so where they come, they can, whether they enjoy basketball or not, they're still ensured, they're still guaranteed to have a good time. They're still gonna have a good time. There's drinks, there's food, there's, it's a great vibe. It's there's people. Everyone has one goal, and everybody's goal in that arena is to cheer on the Ottawa BlackJacks. And when people have a main goal that they all want to work towards together as collaboratively, I find that people connect a lot better. And that environment itself can. It's a never for you can never really forget that experience. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people that never were really into basketball. Maybe there was just like a one-off thing, or maybe they just were happened to stroll by Lansdowne and they happen to see the BlackJacks, and they're playing, I might as well pop in. So and they all, most of them have had a really good experience, and that really doesn't have much to do with the basketball. It's more of it's more of a reflection of our team and what we do behind the scenes to make sure that they can enjoy their time at the BlackJacks game, whether or not they like the basketball game. So
how important on the communications front and the marketing side, how important is the human interest story of the athlete, but the person behind the athlete and their story? I'm talking about like the players on the team. Sometimes fans gravitate towards a sport because they find out about this one player and something that has nothing to do with basketball per se, but they're like, hey, we for whatever reason like this guy or these players, and we're going to show up. How do you communicate that? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I understand. Yeah. So from what I'm understanding is,
and I ask that because, like, I guess the challenge for and sorry to put you on the spot like this, like the challenge is, how do you draw people in who have no connection to the sport, right? Because you know what I'm saying? Like in a city like Ottawa, obviously we have hockey, and that's great. That's an established Canadian sport. So is basketball. Basketball is a Canadian sport, right? It was founded by James Naismith just outside of Ottawa, on Almont. Yeah, so it's a Canadian story. So the reason why I ask that is there's so many layers and elements there that can potentially create angles of entry for the non-initiated in the sport. And how do you cultivate that through communications and marketing?
well, I think that every player has a story, and that's huge. A lot of people gravitate towards the story, and I can give you an example, like Jordans, for example, like the brand, the Jordan brand. If Michael Jordan wasn't who Michael Jordan was, I don't think anybody would be wearing Michael Jordan gear or apparel, because Michael Jordan was arguably the greatest basketball player of all time.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, there you go. And so because of who he is and the impact that he had on not just the youth, but the basketball world in general, because of that, that's why they love Michael Jordan. That's why we love him, and that's why we wear his apparel. And I think that when people gravitate towards a story, and when they find that they can relate to that player to one degree or another, that's what we could kind of help them get to that kind of level of starting to enjoy the game. I find that a lot of youth like Stephen Curry, and the reason they like him is because he's not the tallest basketball player. He's not the most athletic. He's not, you know what I mean? And it's not even close. But he's the greatest shooter of all time. He's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. One of the greatest human beings to ever touch a basketball. Because they find that relation to him, they're like, okay, well, I'm not the biggest and I'm not the strongest. I could be him. Now, that's what's going to gravitate them, and that's what a lot of people that never watched basketball probably saw one Warriors game and then said, oh my God, he looks like me, and he's like destroying everybody. So that kind of allows that there's the personal aspect of it that's bigger than basketball, that allows them to understand, like, okay, well, this player didn't have all the athletic gifts and didn't have all the physical attributes of the LeBron Jameses of the world and the Yao Mings or whatever the case. And he still was able to do it. So when people love People love that kind of motivational story, that sob story. People love it. So, and the moment they hear it and the moment they see it, that's going to gravitate them towards understanding basketball, and then it just kind of it's a domino effect from there.
It totally is, and I appreciate that answer, and because it opens up obviously a whole slew of potential audiences, who may be interested, as you mentioned, but also brands, and also sponsorship and advertisement. In terms of like the potential for basketball in Ottawa with this team, where do you see the team in the next, say, 5 years in terms of, audience development and also that fandom, that you know what I'm saying, like that where people know the players is if, for example, like I could be bumping into a professional basketball player here in the glebe, right? And like going up, and not that I would ask for an autograph, I'm too old for that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, could that happen? What does it take to build that sort of capacity and synergy and energy? I can't believe I used that word synergy, but
No, I love it. I think the biggest thing is just going to be awareness. It's just going to getting the word out there, getting people to understand who the BlackJacks are, why we do what we do, why are the players are who they are. So it's all of just a reflection. It's going to be a group. It's going to be a team. It's going to be a team. What's the word I'm looking for?
Spirit.
Yes, team spirit. It's going to be a team effort. That's the word I'm looking for. It's going to be a team effort. Absolutely. It's going to take every single one of us here at what does in the organization to spread the word and provide a positive, fun experience throughout the entire season. So I think that's going to really take us over, and staying consistent with what we do. I think that's definitely going to take us over the hump.
What's the reception been from Ottawa fans, and on the business side, how engaged are the BlackJacks with corporate in general, with other businesses for sponsorship, this, that, and whatever?
Definitely involved. The more we get people involved, the better. It's again, we're a part of the community, and we want to help the community as much as possible. So the more people we get, the more brands, the more organizations, the more companies we get to work with us, the better it's going to be for the city and for the organization, for sure.
What do you love the most about this job?
Seeing people smile and seeing people enjoy the product, and being able to change people's lives. And that's why I say, like, I really hope that there's going to be a lot of youth at the games this year, because I can already imagine how many lives it's going to impact, especially the young basketball players. You don't really necessarily need to be a basketball player. You could play whatever sport. But again, once you see that story, once you see that motivation, that player that looks like you, or that player that, has this similar physical attributes to you, that's doing what he or she is doing, then that's kind of add that sense of fire in you and that motivation within everything that they do. So yeah, definitely going to be a good season.
What's the outreach strategy for getting into the community and engaging with youth? Obviously, you're involved with as a coach with U16, which must be amazing for your athletes, because they know you have, you know what I'm saying, like you work within this milieu of professional basketball, which as a player is a big deal when you can say, hey, my coach, you know what I'm saying, like what works in there. It's a big boost of confidence for them, knowing that they're dealing with someone who's played professionally and is also working professionally within the scope of sports, professional basketball in Ottawa. What on that note, what's the outreach strategy for engaging with community, especially at the youth level?
Just creating, we're really trying to create experiences for the kids, and for the minor basketball communities, and for all communities to come in and enjoy a game together. And it's all about togetherness. It's all about community. It's all about bringing people together. So the more we enhance those experiences, the more we're going to get people to come in. And that's kind of how we outreach to people is, come along and have a good experience. Come and enjoy a BlackJacks game with, I don't know, your work team or your basketball team or whoever it is. And kind of create that team bonding for them while supporting the Ottawa BlackJacks, which is, I think, goes hand in hand with what we offer here in the city. So
a follow up on that, I'm going to ask you to put on your player's hat on, like as someone who's played professionally and has played the game. there's a lot of responsibility when you play a game, right? There's a lot of weight on you. Game day, you're focused. You've got your priorities. And as someone, I've interviewed athletes, coaches in various sports, and one thing I know is that outreach angle sometimes is an additional pressure on the athlete, if you know what I'm saying. Just even doing media.
Yes.
Even at an amateur, if it's a combat sports event, regardless, if it's a chess tournament, going in front of a camera and speaking to it can be a lot for anybody. My question to you is, how much from a player's perspective do they enjoy the outreach aspect, or is it additional pressure for those who may not be as extroverted? Not everyone wants to do interviews, you know what I'm saying? Not everyone's not comfortable with it. They get anxious. I think people can understand that, right? So as a professional athlete, is that a burden, that additional engagement and interacting with fans? Is it pressure? How do you interpret all that?
It's definitely something that you need to learn. It's a skill. It's not something that you can kind of just dive right in and know how to do. It's not easy. You got to, especially nowadays, like the media is so sensitive. So you got to be careful in terms of what you say. You say one wrong thing and then all of a sudden your brand deals are gone, and all of a sudden you're fined an X amount of money or whatever the case is. So I think that's why a lot of like players at the higher level have people that help them with that, whether it's their agent or a media person or whatever the case is. They kind of train them as to, okay, well, when you're doing this interview, you got to say this, this, and this, or if you run into this type of question, this is how you respond. And you see that a lot in today's game, like in terms of the NBA and stuff like that. Like, guys are getting fined thousands and thousands of dollars for just one comment or one gesture or whatever the case is. So it's definitely some more pressure, because it's just an extra aspect of the game that, I mean, they probably don't really enjoy. At the end of the day, basketball players we just want to play basketball. We don't really care to talk to people or whatever the case is. Now that could be different for others. I'm sure there are people that actually enjoy that aspect of it. But from my experience, it's not something that like you look forward to doing after your game, where you're sweating buckets and whatever, you just scored X amount of points and all that. So I think that it can be a burden for some people, but the more you navigate that and the more you learn about how to do it, the easier it's going to become for you as an athlete.
As someone who's been in the game and now you work in the game on the other side, on the business side of things, how big of an advantage is it for you to have, that experience as a former player now, wearing a different jersey, if you know what I mean, within the same ecosystem, but more on the administrative and on the business side? Is that an advantage or disadvantage from your perspective?
I think it's a huge advantage. I think because I say that because you develop that passion for the game. So no matter what side of the basketball you're on, you're gonna love the game. And I genuinely want to see so many people. I don't see any reason as to why this place shouldn't be packed every single night. And that you develop that passion through playing the game. I love basketball. I love everything about basketball. And I want other people to feel that joy and feel that love that I have towards basketball. So that's why every conversation that I have with everybody, I show that passion. I display that passion. I show them that I care. I show them that I love this game, and I show them what it could do for them as well. And I strive to make sure that they can understand that and that they feel that sort of passion and that love for the game. And I strive to make that, and I hope that kind of brings them in. And usually it does, but for people that have, like you said, never played basketball, it becomes a little tougher. But to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. Like it's so big because you understand the game, you understand the ins and outs of it, you understand the players from a player's perspective, you understand coaching from a coaching perspective, to different degrees. But yeah, definitely an advantage for sure.
The transferable skills from a player to the business side, what transferable skills are there, and what do you see has really benefited you from your days as a player to a salesperson?
Being a leader, I mean, that's very that's very specific to the player. But growing up, I've always tried to lead every team that I've been on. Even if I wasn't the best player on that team, I try to be the voice. And having those leadership attributes really helps in a team environment like this with the Ottawa BlackJacks, because you want to be able to lead all of like the community, the basketball community, to understand how valuable it is to have the Blackjacks in the city and what we provide for them. So definitely leadership would be the first thing that comes to mind to answer that question.
Just jumping on a completely different, semi-completely different topic, in terms of media engagement and communication strategy, what can you tell us about the BlackJacks communication strategy and how engaged they are with local media in terms of, you know what I mean, trying to get the word out, this, that, and the other?
We're working towards it at the moment. I'm not a spokesperson, so I can't really. Fair enough. So I can't really talk about in terms of like what it is exactly that we're working or that they're doing to achieve that. But what I can say is we're all of us on an individual level are going outside and talking to our friends and talking to our peers. So whatever the case is about the BlackJacks and spreading the word like that. To make sure that people are aware of who the BlackJacks are. So that's in terms of our strategy at the moment. That's all I can say about that. But definitely, there's going to be some more different things that we're going to do to achieve that awareness as well, for sure.
What can we expect this coming season, and where can fans inform themselves some more about the team, and more importantly, get tickets?
Definitely. Well, you can always call me. 613-294-1133. Give me a call. Always happy to talk about BlackJacks. And expect a lot of energy, positive energy, a lot of excitement. Lots of cool things happening this year. We've made a lot of changes. Can't speak about them. Made a lot of cool changes. And it's a lot to be excited for, And last season, obviously we didn't go as far as we wanted to, but we're looking to bring it home for sure. So lots of excitement, lots of fun times, lots of party vibes, and lots of good basketball for sure.
Can Ottawa become a major player in professional basketball? Can this city take it to the next level, in your opinion? And I don't mean just on the court, but building, that engagement with the community as a whole, because that's what's going to draw people in, at least one aspect of the people.
For sure. I definitely think it's possible. I think the people of Ottawa have been craving a basketball team that's high level, that plays like good basketball, that produces a good product. And I think that the more people understand, the more people know about it, the more people that come to watch our games, the more they're going to understand why it is that we do what we do, and why this is such a beautiful thing for the city of Ottawa, and why it's so huge for the city of Ottawa to have the BlackJacks. So definitely, we're definitely looking to get some more people through the doors to understand that, for sure.
Last question for you, sir. What's the best advice you've ever been given as a basketball player? What's that one piece of advice that's something that's like your mantra?
Shoot the ball. And that it goes a lot deeper than that.
Please take us there.
For sure. So from a shooter's perspective, there's a lot of ups and downs. Basketball is a very inconsistent sport. And there's going to be times where you shoot the ball really well. There's going to be times where you shoot the ball not so well. So the biggest thing for me that I've learned is shoot the ball no matter what. Like, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what it is that's going on, or how you're shooting, or if you're in a slump or whatever the case is, the only way to dig yourself out of that is to keep shooting and keep working at it. And so that translates to my off-court life, where, if things aren't going my way, or if I'm having a rough week or a rough day or whatever the case is, I still got to keep going. You still got to keep moving. You still got to keep pushing forward, regardless of what's happening. You still got to shoot the ball, regardless of what's going on. And that's pushed me to different levels. And I'm beyond blessed to be in the situation I'm in right now. Love working here. Love being a part of the organization. And, it's there's only so many basketball jobs in the city of Ottawa. So to be somebody that has the privilege of working within the basketball world, I can't even put it into words. It's huge, and I love it. But yeah, keep shooting the ball. Definitely keep shooting the ball no matter what.
Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Ottawa and the Future of Sports. Big thanks to Ameer AlHussaini for sharing his insight, and to the Ottawa BlackJacks for bringing that intensity and celebration to our city. If you haven't been to a game yet, go lock in your 2026 seat memberships, explore the deals, and experience pro basketball right here in Ottawa. Visit theblackjacks.ca and reach out to Ameer to get started. Ottawa and the Future of Sports podcast is hosted by Garmamie.